Hi everyone, welcome back to Quest for Literature. Today we are going to see the difference between tragedy and comedy in English literature. Before getting into the video, if you are not yet subscribed to my channel, do subscribe, click on the bell icon and enable all options so that you will be notified whenever I upload a new video. English dramas are broadly divided into two types, tragedy and comedy. Now, let us see the difference between tragedy and comedy. Tragedy, as the name represents, it deals with the dark side of the life. Its aim is to inspire with pity and awe. The characters involved in circumstances that impel them towards an unhappy fate. In all the tragic drama, you can see this. Okay. Then the characters in Greek tragedy are of high birth and station. That means the characters will be of king, prince, princesses, and their household things. Okay. Then their clothing. Regarding their clothing, they wear thick soled and high heeled boot just to show or to make them appear tall and majestic. Then the subjects of a tragedy will be fall of a king or ruin of a great family. Next, let us see about comedy. Comedy deals with the light side of the life and its aim is to evoke laughter. Though fortune may be unkind for a while, all comes right in the end of the drama so that all will be happy. Here, the characters are people of less importance. Their clothing or dressing will be of light shoes just to show lower degree. In later literature, there are tragedies of low life and comedies of high life. Thomas Hardy's tragic novel Tess of the Devils deals with a dairy maid as its heroine. Shakespeare's comedies, you can see people of high rank like Falstaff, Sir Toby Blanche, Portia, Rosalind. So far, we have seen the difference between tragedy and comedy. Before Shakespeare, the people feel like tragedy is meant for high class and comedy is meant for low class. And Shakespeare is the one who changed all that preconceived ideas of the audience and the writers. When it comes to the 18th century, we have a new type of tragedy, that is domestic tragedy. Here, the characters and incidents of ordinary life is taken as the subject of serious drama. The best example for that is George Lillow's A London Merchant. The men of letters praised it. Loyalty perceived or read it in palace chambers. Spectators fogged, gathered again and again to see it on the stage. This is all about domestic tragedy. And plays were written in prose and not in verse. Now, let's see the difference between tragic and comic atmosphere. In tragic drama, the situation is of sober and serious. It purges the emotion through pity and terror, and there is no mingling of comic elements. When it comes to comedy, the atmosphere is of mirthful and light, that is, of joy. It moves to laughter, and very important, it should be a thoughtful laughter. And there is no mingling of tragic elements. These are the classical rules regarding tragic and comic atmosphere. The Greek and Roman plays, they are considered as the classical plays. They are pure tragedy and pure comedy. When it comes to English literature, comedy and tragedy are found intermingled. Comic interludes are available in tragedy, and the background of tragic possibilities are there in comedies. Shakespeare's tragedy begins happily and ends unhappily. When it comes to comedy, it begins unhappily and ends happily. Here you can see the intermingling of tragedy and comedy. And this type of plot is suitable for English temperament because that is more realistic to life. You know, life is a combination of both happiness and sadness. And both tragedy and comedy aim at giving pleasure. Language and artistry of the presentation raise to the match the high passions. In English literature, the aim of both tragedy and comedy is to give pleasure. But when it comes to Greek tragedy and comedy, they both serve two distinct purposes. Now let's see that. Tragedy is for catharsis, that is, the purgation of emotion. You can even say it purifies the feeling. It raises audience morally and spiritually. The best example for that is Samson Agonist by Milton. When it comes to comedy, it is meant for correction of manners, to refine contact, correct the social failings. Now, let's see about the story of tragedy and comedy. It is to convey moral, and the moral will be stated at the end of the play by any one of the characters. In tragedy, the wrong never triumphs. The wrongdoers will be punished, which we call it as poetic justice. Sometimes good comes out of evil, that you can see in Romeo and Juliet. The reconciliation of Montague and Capulet. That is the anticlimax concluding episode that comes after the peak of tragedy. The same you can see in Hamlet also, the enter of the 14 breaths. So in both Romeo and Juliet and in Hamlet, you can see good comes out of evil. That is in Romeo and Juliet, only after the death of Romeo and Juliet, the Capulet and the Montague reunite. In Hamlet, after the death of all, there you can see the entry of 14 breaths. Once verse form, that is poetry, is remained as the medium for both tragedy and comedy. When it comes to Shakespeare's comedies, he writes it in blank verse. The characters like clown, rustic, and the madman, they speak in prose. In As You Like It, you can see even the principal characters' conversations are there in prose, and verse is reserved for tragedy and prose is reserved for comedy. When it comes to restoration dramatists like Congreve, they write it in prose in very ornate, imaginative, witty, and in unrealistic order. Recently, the language takes the form of ordinary conversational speech. Naturalism was ultimately victorious in the theatre. Tragedy descended to prose. Last blank verse tragedy is Sidney Phillips' drama. Free verse mingled with richly orientalized poetic prose you can see in James Elrose Flecker's Hazen. Then medium in there is a change in medium, a heavy loss in splendor of language. Impressive tragedies were not written in contemporary prose. Glassworth is Justice is an example for that. The modern drama in general are in prose art forms. Thank you all for listening. We will be dealing with the different types of tragedy and comedy in the next session. Till the time we meet next, stay tuned to Quest for Literature, keep reading and know the world.